about that. We're a couple trying to get it moved here. Okay, there we go. There we go.
Something on me. I was like, God, what happened? Okay.
So we're a couple minutes getting organized here today. So happy Saturday to everybody. Hopefully everybody's off to a good weekend. It was a crazy start. So no, we're actually working on these slides that we're doing for you guys today, and a little scrambling here at the last minute.
There's so much that when I put into it, and it's so hard for me to condense it into stuff that is user friendly. And I apologize for. It's hard for my knowledge trying to parse that out and make it sound so it comes across what makes sense to you. And Steve constantly reminds me when I explain mechanisms and how they work and stuff like that, especially when it involves cholesterol and all this stuff. And he's like, "What?"
Yeah.
He gets that blank stare, and I'm like, "Oh, okay." I try to backtrack. So I've been trying to backtrack all morning, and it hasn't. It's hard for me, but hopefully it'll make sense to you.
Yeah, no. So again, it's the reason she's got so much knowledge. We both do in our own respective rights, as you do as well. And she gets into the rabbit holes on the science side. And I have to kind of pull her back a little bit so we can put it in layman's terms. So if I can understand it, hopefully you guys should, because I'll be a little bit below everybody else.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks you guys for joining us. We hope you're off to a great weekend. We'll keep these short. So this is a longer one.
It's just so important.
It's just so important.
So we're gonna jump right in and get started with it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna put it in the chat here. If you click this link, we can then see your name. And those are for people on YouTube who are watching live. And I just did that in the Facebook group as well. So let me go ahead and share my screen here, and we will get started. And today is important because, we surveyed you guys a while back. And one of the things that we heard was, you guys stated that eating healthier is a goal of yours, right? Which it's a goal of ours, right? Which is what we have focused on so much in the last,
fighting
few
inflammation,
years.
Eating
fighting
healthy,
inflammation, right?
Running, long term, and well into our 60s, 70s. What you guys are doing? You guys are all rock stars.
Amazing.
A lot of you are showing us the pictures, showing us what you're doing, and we, it's kudos to you. But we know part of all that and aging well and being able to keep that mobility and do all this stuff is crucial on our diet and our health and what we eat and what we put in our body matters. It does.
Yeah.
And it's not about what we can get away with. It's not because I'm a certain weight. It doesn't matter what I eat. I'm a runner and I do all this thing. It doesn't matter what I eat. It does matter. It has to be a high priority, and we want to. There's so much misinformation out there, and stuff that we were told for decades that were healthy, and they knew back then it wasn't, and that's the shocking thing. And it has been detrimental, and we've seen what it's done to statistically. Over 1 million people die every year of metabolic disease. Heart disease is taking over 600,000 people. I mean, it's horrific when a lot of this stuff can be changed by your diet.
Yeah. And that's what we're going to try to talk about again. As we say each week, this is not medical advice. We want you to do your own research, but
absolutely,
the key thing, this is what we research and what we do, right? So we encourage you guys, please do your own research. We're trying to make you aware of this so you can
go out and do your own research.
Again, take this information, use it as a data point, and then do your own research as well. And hello out there. I don't know who's actually, this is why we're asking for the name in there, but that's okay. It's all good. So anyway, I can't see your name, but thanks for joining us here live today. So anyway, we're going to try to keep this short. We're already 4 minutes in and we haven't even started yet. So
as quickly goes.
As we just said, it is not medical advice. Do your own research because you deserve to feel good, and it's coming down to.
This should be something that should be on everyone's radar. You should feel good every day. If you're eating the right foods, no matter what age you are, you should feel good every day. So.
Yeah, and so we want you guys. Oh, it looks like Cheryl, you are. Thanks, Cheryl, for watching. Thank you. So I had to see who that was. So anyway. Today we're going to talk about omega-3s and 6s, and I actually got that wrong. I forgot to reverse that. It's actually omega-6s that should have been first. I'll fix that later.
The reason for that, we're talking about ratios. The ratios always start when you see a ratio. The first one's going to be omega-6. The second one's going to be omega-3.
Yeah. So just keep that in mind, a little typo there. So this ties into last week. It actually adds on because last week we talked about substitutions in your food, which will help you reduce inflammation, which leads to these chronic diseases like heart disease, like Patty just said.
Diabetes, obesity, all that. These are all inflammatory, arthritis. These are all inflammatory diseases, and all the, like I said, all the neurodegenerative diseases that are popping up, increasing.
And we showed this little spiralizer that we actually substitute spaghetti with zucchini and make zoodles, and we still use some sauce. We use the Rouse spaghetti sauce with meat. And it's amazing that we actually had it for dinner last week because we showed you guys. That's why we went through a little show and tell last week. And then today we're going to talk about, we're going to go a little bit deeper on these omega-6s and omega-3s, why it's so important. And just making this change alone, you'll start to make,
health
benefits are astronomical. And so there's a whole stuff around this. Why this is so complicated and so much information. We wanted to try to get to it today and keep it on point. So what are these ratios? Why are they important? And then what you can do to see some results, right?
Okay. So first, we're talking about omega-3 fatty acids and omega-6 fatty acids. These are essential fatty acids that your body needs. When it says essential, anything that says essential, that just means your body cannot produce it or cannot produce enough of it for what it needs. So you have to get it from outside sources, from your diet. This is how, fat metabolism has been part of it. We've studied, how we evolved as a species, basically was eating game and eating whatever seasonally was around. It was mainly meat because that was something animals were always around, if we could find them. But berries and grains, stuff like that, plants and all that were seasonal. So we had ratios of your body needs these 2 fatty acids. We had ratios back then of about 1-to-1. When they can study, they can find out. It's amazing what they can do. They can find out what was eaten in these times.
Right. Now if you fast forward that to even as short as 50 years ago, so you'll see pictures of people on the beach and you never saw a bunch of obese people. You just didn't, because the food has transformed. And it comes down to omega-6s.
The main thing that has changed is not that this started about the 1900s, but the mass production of that correlated with them promoting it. That was the big thing. In the 70s, they did studies. In the 60s, to see if corn oil, because they decided that's a polyunsaturated fat, it sounds healthy. It sounds better than saturated fat. Saturated fat kind of sounds bad. Eisenhower had a heart attack, they needed to solve this. Why did he have this? It was a big crisis. So they started looking at this, and they thought, and the scientists think, you come up with a hypothesis, and then you do studies to see if it's right or wrong. That's how science works, but not so much anymore. And even not back then. So big studies from Minnesota, from a huge one, like 10,000 people, from Sydney did one, somebody Australia. Big studies, the randomized control studies, some of these that they wanted interventions. They switched corn oil for saturated fats. I thought they would get a health benefit, a cardiac benefit. Not only did they get 0 cardiac benefit, it increased mortality. So it literally did the opposite of what they thought it was going to do. For some reason, they did Ansel Keys did the 22, well, it says 7 country study. It was actually 22 countries. The stuff was all over the map, but he picked all the ones that fit his hypothesis. But he did not parse out that they were coastal Mediterranean, not eating corn oil, seed oils that we were touting as healthy, when we knew, and there was studies at that time that completely disproved it.
Right. So think about that there, like you said, that's why the Mediterranean, that's why this is a popular diet today. because you're eating a lot of omega-3s. And we're going to get into this in a minute, but the average American today eats 20-to-1 ratio.
So what are they, and why is that? How did we get these ratios so bad? Is because this soy, we'll go over what they are, but this is put in processed food. It is cheap oil to produce, and it is put in all of processed food. What did we start doing? Mass producing processed food. And then we are told these omega-6s from these corn oil and canola oil and Crisco and all that were miracle things that were actually heart healthy, which direct opposite. They're absolutely not. There's no studies. Even all the studies they've been doing after that, none of them proved that. But yet, what did they go through? That's all we've been told. Low fat, and all they did was put more sugar in it.
Yeah.
So
if you think about this, and we're going to dig into this again, if we're changed our diet, and if you're eating out all the time at restaurants and fast food, that's more like 50-to-1. And that is going to have a direct correlation to inflammation in your body.
Because they are cooking with, it's less expensive. It's corn oil. We'll go to the next slide and we'll see what these industrial seed oils, what they are.
Yeah.
And if you look at, like I said, 1-to-1 ratio is what we used to have in health. The populations, the blue zones that they've studied, 1-to-4, 1-to-1 ratios. The American diet, people with those ratios are having 20-to-1. So we've gone, and like I said, if you're eating out a lot, that ratio goes up to 50-to-1. So our ratio from this omega-6 to omega-3, two things that we absolutely need, needs to be in balance. What happens when things are out of balance? We get the heart disease, we get the cancer
it leads
rates,
to all those things.
It leads to all this. This is the big thing that changed in the last 40 years. So
yeah, that's been the major change, and it comes from this industrial seed oils, which is mind-blowing if you really go down a rabbit hole. And again, what are these industrial seed oils, right? And it's made in just about everything, but you'll see corn oil.
Canola oil is probably one of the biggest things at Wesson you would see, like, what is that? Florence Henderson,
that was a long time ago. Yeah.
A long time ago.
Yeah, well, you guys are in the age group. You understand that. Yeah.
Super healthy. I mean, vegetable oils. It sounds healthy. Those are not vegetables. There is not a vegetable oil that comes from these seed oils. They are seed oils. But cottonseed oil, soybean is probably, soybean and corn oil are probably the biggest offenders. Soybean, if you look at any processed food, any mayonnaise, any dressing, anything like that, that's going to be your number one thing.
Yep.
But these are some of the other ones that sound: sunflower oil. Sunflower seeds are good for you. Sunflower oil, not good for you. So,
yeah, and it's the reason for, and again, safflower oil and grapeseed oil. And so those, again, some of those sound like grapeseed oil sounds healthy, right? It's how it's made is the problem.
How do they get those, though?
How do they get those out of the ground? So here is some information. If you go to Penn State University, and there's the link down there, this is actually the process that has to happen to get the oil out the back end. It is mind-boggling.
It is a highly mechanical and chemical process to make this happen. They literally have to mechanically press it. They have to chemically express it from there. Then they have to deodorize it, bleach it, like winterize this because it's so unstable. Deodorize it because it smells horrible to get that. And then they're still adding all this other stuff to keep this unstable because they're doing so much processing to it to keep it stable so we can keep it on the shelf and put it on all the food. So
think about that for just a second. And then you look at, and we're going to do another whole session of this. We did this a long time ago, but reading the labels on food and bars and things like that is a big deal. A lot of people don't know how to do that. And we understand. We didn't either until we started digging into this. But this little diagram here just shows you the process it takes.
That's what it takes to make a seed oil. So if anyone can look at that, and if you think
that that's healthy,
I'm sorry. I'm like, I haven't found any research that shows that. But there's a lot of stuff on there that says, oh, it's been demonized, it's been this for a reason. So
yeah, exactly. And then here's what comes out the back end. That looks healthy, right? They're like, oh, that's good. I'm going to use that to cook. Do not.
and then this unstable, highly processed thing, you heat up over and over again.
Which is what restaurants do.
That's what restaurants do. So that is why, and we're not saying you can never go out to eat.
Right. We still go out to eat.
But once in a while, make it a special occasion. I'm sorry, but I know the fanciest restaurant is still going to use the cheap
Unfortunately,
ones.
that is reality,
And if
right?
you're
'Cause
not
it's too expensive
consuming high
otherwise.
quality olive oil, they're mixing the seed oils with the olive oils to make it cheaper.
Yeah, and you'll even see in the grocery store, you'll see some that'll say added or has avocado oil, which means they're just adding a little amount. But if you look at the label, it's still going to be predominantly soybean oil, which is what you want to avoid, right?
That's why, like I said, we'll go over how to read labels and all that.
Yeah, that's another whole deep session. So why are they so bad?
When you see how that process happens, you can realize how some of these things do, but it interrupts. So your body's a magnificent thing. It has processes, but all of our processes create some type of oxidative stress. A little bit is fine, just like a little bit of inflammation, acute when you cut yourself, fine. Chronic inflammation, bad. Chronic over that unbalance of oxidative stress and having too much of that is what creates the inflammation, which leads to the heart disease, leads to all of this. Seed oils play a big part of that.
Right. Yeah. Look at this. So it's restrictions. This is where Patty will get a little bit technical. The nitric oxide synthesis. I was like, what? She's okay. Restricts blood flow, right?
Basically,
which is going to impact
your body has natural ways of dilating your vessels.
Yep.
The more dilation you have in your blood vessels, the easier blood flows and the better oxygenation you can get to your cells and everything happens. One of those processes is nitrous, that's laughing gas, nitric acid. But that's the thing that your body normally has. Actually, in your saliva, it starts. Nitrates start in your saliva. We have enzymes that turn it into nitric oxide, which is a complete vasodilator. Like I said, that has a great cardiac benefit. It helps. These seed oils interrupt that process from them going from nitrite to nitric oxide. So that cardiac benefit that our body, a natural process that our body has to do, it interrupts that. So,
right, and that comes from the seed oils, right? So that it contributes to your insulin resistance, which is going to cause obesity or lead to weight gain.
That is what insulin resistance is, the biggest thing of why it's hard for people to lose weight, but also increases their chance of getting type 2 diabetes.
Right, which is going to lead to heart disease. All those things start cascading, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the foundation are these seed oils. Shocking, absolutely shocking.
Yeah, but it affects our brains. It affects it can put you at increased risk for we see all these food allergies now, and people having allergies and allergic reactions and all this. Studies are starting to show that this increases those, it's a pro-inflammatory thing. Having these ratios so high it's creating, basically wreaking havoc in your body and all throughout your body and all throughout your processes. And the biggest thing, especially, well, not that this is the only thing we care about, but your mitochondria, the little energy powerhouses that are in every one of your cells that give you the energy, that use oxygen to give you energy. What do we need energy for? Everything. Yeah. What do we need more energy for? Optimal energy for running. The better you are at producing energy, the better you are at running, the easier running is. This actually, seed oils and those omega-6s actually stop, interfere with mitochondria, function and this whole process of producing oxygen and ATP and energy. So it literally affects every part of your body and every system that we have in our body that ultimately wants us to perform.
Right. So think about that. As we said earlier, the average American is eating 20-to-1 ratio. So 20 to the bad. It should be more 1-to-1 or 4-to-1 at the highest, right?
Mhm.
And if you're eating all the time, you're at like 40 to 50-to-1. That's why then your body will just build up and keep building up, and you're going to feel bad. You're going to feel lethargic all the time because you can't produce the energy. And this is one of the key foundations right here.
So,
how do you combat this?
Yeah. We know omega-3s are another essential thing that we absolutely need, because these are the other ones are pro-inflammatory. These are the anti-inflammatory. So you have 3 different kinds. ALL is from a plant source, usually nuts and seeds. And then you have, or unfortunately, it can be from the omegas, the bad parts of it. But
the DHA and EPA are from marine sources.
I just saw this typo. It's EPA.
Yeah, I know EP, and I said EPC on there, so it was a typo. We were doing
but
this fast.
But those are the 2 that you get from your fatty fish. You get from your cold water fish. Some shellfish, but basically marine life.
Right. So ideally, you should be eating fish a couple times a week. If you can't, you can supplement it. We take this Nordic Nature's DHA Extra because we want to get as much as we can.
Yeah, because we know it's anti-inflammatory. It helps with, remember, fatty acids form your cell membranes. So if whatever you are eating, these are essential. So your body's not producing it. Your body needs this. So whatever source you are giving your body for these fatty acids are making every single cell in your body. The cell membranes are made out of fat. Now, if you are getting most of your fat from the seed oils, these unhealthy linoleic acid, not forming right, not doing right, it's not that your body's going to stop forming cells. No, it's going to keep forming them with whatever materials you give it. So you're forming millions and millions of cells, trillions of cells. If you're not optimizing it by forming it with the right type that are going to form those healthy membranes and going to support optimal cell function, you start to get damaged cells, you start to get inflammation, you start to get cancer, you start to get ones that don't function right, don't function energy-wise. It is the breakdown of how this is. When you have an optimal amount of omega-3s, which, like I said, it does lower your triglycerides. That's a big thing. People think eating fat raises your cholesterol, does all that. That's a whole nother rabbit hole that we won't go, I won't go too deep into. But insulin resistance is a big thing with people. That is something this helps with that. It helps improve that blood function. It helps to improve, like I said, building those healthy cell walls that we need.
Right. And so again, the key is having that balance ratio, right? So what can you do about it to help? Like, this is some easy stuff. Stop eating processed food. I mean, stop. If you just did that alone, this little list right here, you would be shocked if you did this for a few weeks, how much better you'd feel.
Everybody knows they're not supposed to eat it, but
yeah, it tastes good for a reason.
But when you start to really realize what that's doing to your body, every time you eat that, every time you have those ratios that are completely out of whack, you have most of your cells being made from damaged start. It is. It's not an optimal way to make your cells. If you have that is what's going to lead to all these other cascading events. You are what you eat. You are.
It's true. And when you hear this and you know this, and yet and we're guilty, we're human, right? But we have made these changes, we're conscious, because as we've said all the time, we want to keep running as we get older. And we know that we've got to eat the right foods to allow us to do that, to support that goal, because running makes us feel so good. And we want to just keep feeling good. This is why we share this stuff with you guys, right? As I've said countless times, we're in our 50s. I'm mid-50s, and we are high school weight. We will never go back to being overweight. Never. Because we know what to eat.
And a lot of people and a lot of research is guiding to that we know sugar's bad, but that the seed oils are playing a bigger effect in the obesity rates. How fat is an organ. Fat signals different things in our body. I won't go into all that technical part of it, but it either is giving pro-inflammatory signals or inflammatory signals. It matters what type of fat that you're getting. It matters, and you need it. It's not bad. It's not demonized when it's the type of fat that you get from seeds or from plants or that you get from animals.
Yeah,
and marine life.
So again, stop eating processed food, read the labels and avoid soybean oils, all those oils we listed earlier. Ideally, we're going to do another whole session on reading labels on food and supplements because it's so confusing. I still get confused. That's why I rely on her. But at the same time, I've learned so much. We want to share this with you guys. Just knowing that little bit, it'll allow you to make better decisions, which is going to lead to all this stuff right here. And it's not that much. You'd be shocked.
Substituting those, I'm sorry, but if you have canola oil
please throw it out
there, if you have that, if you're gonna have butter, buy real butter. We use the Kerrygold Irish butter. I think most people have gotten that margarine is not healthy. There for a while, they duped us. They made it seem like we were buying that, but when you realize what margarine is and what ridiculous that something like that's artificial, they convinced us was healthy. So don't listen. You can't trust the powers to be.
That's right. We're just saying, do your own research, right? Yeah, we've gone deep, and she's gone really deep. But if you substitute those seed oils for the olive oil, now it's going to be a little bit more expensive, but is your health worth it? Do you want to feel better?
And as we talked about, getting quality olive oil that has been certified, because even that
in a dark bottle,
it's a scam too, because they mix, just to make it cheaper, they mix olive oil with seed oils to make it cheaper.
And then they say it's olive oil, but it's really not. You have to make sure you're getting certified. It's so good. Now, you're going to pay more for it. But again, it goes back to what I just said. Do you want to feel better? Just making that change alone, you're going to be shocked.
We know with our running shoes. I don't think there's a single one of us out there that are running with a shoe that costs less than $100. Unless you're still buying ones from a couple of years ago and you can still find your size. That's about the only time you can find a discounted shoe. But we know you pay the $130, the $150, you pay whatever it is because it's going to allow you to run. You would never skimp on your buying $20 running shoes because you know what that's going to do to every single one of your runs, every single mile, every single step you take. So we get that. You're not going to buy cheap clothes. You're going to get moisture wicking clothes that you can run in that don't rub.
Yeah, I highly doubt anybody's running in cotton shirts anymore.
We want to know what our heart rate is. We want to know stats for our things. So we do our watches and all this. So we get the concept of buying things that improve what we do and what we have a passion for. What we're trying to do is get you to feel that same way about the food that you eat.
And then again, just cook at home more often. I know it's kind of, you're like, I don't like to cook. But again, learning these things as we showed you guys.
It's less expensive.
It's actually less expensive.
You're going to be paying more for all your food. So you might as well cook it, have the ingredients. I went over, we'll probably go on another thing about spices, how you can add so much benefit just by adding some spices to your food. We'll try to do some recipes in that, but this is the critical part of it. And it is absolutely worth it. These are, like I said, us mass producing food has probably been the worst thing that's happened. Did we need it to feed the masses?
For a healthy population, yeah, we needed to feed people, and we could still do it if it was done a little bit smart. It would cost a little bit more, but there's no money in that, and that's why. So that's another whole conversation. So
yeah, but don't be afraid of the saturated fat. We know there's probably still people that will never believe that. It's been so ingrained, but they knew that back from the 60s.
Yeah.
So we've been lied to from the 60s about saturated fat. They've proven, they tell you that you need to lower cholesterol, so don't eat fat. But yet every study they've done from that has said people with the lowest cholesterol die twice as much. So who cares if you have low cholesterol if it increases your death rate?
Think about that for a second. Yeah, that's the
All
data.
the-
That's just data right there.
You
Yeah.
can look at, I'll show you a ton of them, but from Columbia University, from the UK, from these, they just assume, but studying populations, when you study that and do these meta-analysis and realizing the ones with the lowest cholesterol die twice as much as what people that had higher cholesterol. So it's not the cholesterol. Why do they tout cholesterol? Because they have a drug that lowers LDL. They have a drug and that's all it does. So they say LDL is bad. It's not LDL, it's the size of the LDL.
We'll talk about this next time, but when you go and do your blood work,
But the seed oils affect the size of your cholesterol and make it bad.
Exactly. So all this stuff is combined, is linked together, right? But next time you go to your doctor, make sure you ask for a full lipid panel, and that'll show you the size of the particles. But that's another whole conversation. So again, you can overcome anything. If you're not there today, you can overcome this. You'd be shocked how fast you can do this because we want to keep these are simple. We want to keep our inflammation down, right? So we can keep running and we can feel good. And you can overcome this. We did, and we know you guys do, which is why we do these, right? Mm-hmm. And we want you guys obviously to have a great Saturday. And because you deserve it, you totally deserve it, because we don't want you to lose your love for running. And that's why we do these all the time, because we want to share this. Now, if anybody watching, I'm going to share if you're still watching. If anybody watching the replay, if you guys want some extra help, more than willing to set up a time for you guys, do a free call.
I will be glad to explain a little more.
We love helping people out, right?
Or just to look at what
you're currently doing. Give you some guidelines
and give you some tips for how to make those little changes.
It's minor changes. You'd be shocked.
Don't know all the background of all this or whatever. Some of the things they say, it doesn't make sense, and a lot of it because it doesn't actually make sense. So it can be confusing when you think about it. But basically, eat real food. If you can eat real food, cook your food, and use high quality oils like avocado oil and just olive oil.
Cut the processed foods out. But anyway, we could keep talking about this topic for another half an hour, but we want to respect you guys Saturday.
You guys got a lot going on.
So yeah. So have a great day, and we will see you guys next week.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for posting those pictures. We love it.
We love to see that.
Absolutely love that.